What fandom racism looks like, anti-blackness in the K-pop industry and its fandom spaces, the cultural appropriation conversation, so very hairy, by Stitches Media Mix. One of the most frequent topics in the cultural appropriation conversation folks in K-pop fandom spaces keep having to have is how idols keep seeming to gravitate towards hairstyles connected with Black people. From the dawn of K-pop, one constant has been that many of the idols we know and love have had their hair put into styles commonly associated with Black people. Cornrows, twists, box braids, bantu knots, afros via wigs, and locks. Here's Kai from EXO and Wolf with cornrows. Boa on the cover of her debut US album with cornrows. J-Hope from BTS taking a selfie with braids. Bantu knots on Yuki from G-Idol in their latest video, Uh-Oh. Kai from EXO, again, in Coco Bop with locks. Lisa from Blackpink in Kill This Love with box braids. Truity, who was on Unpretty Rap Star with cornrows and bonus blackface, sorta. T.O.P. from Big Bang with Bantu knots. Jimin from AOA with cornrows. RM from BTS in his pre-debut appearance in the No More Dream era, featuring afro and locks. Chenle from NCT Dream, he's the guy with the pink hair on the right, in Boom with cornrows. You might be thinking to yourself, it's just hair, or wondering, why does it matter? Well, like I wrote in my essay, Cultural Appropriation in the Age of K-pop. The harm of cultural appropriation lies in how the people doing the appropriation of a minority group's culture, removing it from its context, dehumanize the minority group and dismiss their concerns or humanity. In a world where Black people are seen as less human or not human at all for being Black, like just existing, and where Black culture is tied up in stereotypes about hyperaggressive masculinity and misogyny, and we're all just punished for existing, it's not just hair. Recently, a photo went viral showing a DeKalb County school's hair policy, one that showed the appropriate hairstyles for students that targeted Black students pretty clearly. In December 2018, a teenage New Jersey wrestler had his locks cut without his consent in order to avoid forfeiting his match. The video was circulated around the world, with many Black people commenting on the unfairness and racism behind the referee's choice to force this young man into the situation. This is a screenshot from a tweet by Mike Frankel JSZ that calls the young man the epitome of a team player. At the time that I'm putting this video together, only one state in the United States has protections on the books for Black people's hair. Only one state 100% made it law that Black people can't be punished for our hair as it grows out of our heads. California becomes first state to ban discrimination based on one's natural hair. Many K-pop idols wear typically Black hairstyles as part of their comeback looks or in concept and concert looks in order to properly represent a hip-hop aesthetic and gain authenticity. This is an industry norm, as the ones I've listed so far in this video are just a handful of examples. But it being an industry norm for idols to get cornrows, locks, box braids as part of their drive for authenticity or as a way to gain a form of street cred with a hip-hop look doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean that by accepting a form of Black culture when their idols do it, or wanting to share their looks, that South Korean people as a whole are open-minded about Black people and see us as people. Korean pop stars are, for the most part, born and raised in South Korea. They have limited access to Black people outside of Black culture. That lack of exposure to Black people isn't actually a great excuse for cultural appropriation from idols. Not in 2019 and beyond. Not when we're all on the internet 24/7, and the internet serves up lots of resources from people experiencing all kinds of living situations worldwide. We know that some idols, like BTS and American Hustle Life, have made an effort to learn more about Black USians as people and how our history informs our musical traditions. If you can have your fingers on the pulse of Black culture in the US, what's stopping you from learning about why many Black people with side-eye idols in K-pop who adopt appropriative hairstyles like the ones detailed in this video? We know that Koreans, who have possibly the highest internet penetration percentage currently, have access to the internet and can look up any questions they may have about Black people and Black history. We also know that many Korean pop and hip hop artists are familiar with Black musicians and are up to date on the latest songs, dances, and even memes created by Black people. So, if they can be up to date on and learn about Black culture, I have to ask, why aren't they putting the same effort into learning about Black people as people? It's more than just hair when Black people in and out of South Korea are subject to things like dehumanization, being denied jobs, being removed from the dating pool, racial slurs, and being touched without their consent. And our hair is used to excuse some of our treatment. It's more than just hair when worldwide our natural hair is seen as part of what makes us inherently subhuman. When non-Black people's views of Black hair are part of what makes them call us unclean and make demands on our bodies. You can go on YouTube or different blogging platforms right now and find examples of Black people sharing their experiences with South Koreans getting too handsy with their hair, making inappropriate references, or just not treating them well because of their Blackness. For example, Christina from Different in Korea wrote about a bunch of different dehumanizing experiences she got hit with on the regular while living in South Korea. This is a screenshot of her site while she was in Korea. The title of the blog post is Maneuvering Through Seoul as a Minority of the Minorities. And she talks about how hard at times it was to live in Seoul as a Black person. Nolu from Melanated Butterfly wrote about some of her experiences in South Korea back in 2017, including a post specifically about being Black in a country where you're a mega minority. Being Black in South Korea. I'm actually not sure if she took a picture of people taking pictures of her, but that's one of the experiences many people have when they're Black and they travel. Some of the experiences she details involved having people touch and rub her skin without her consent. Skin rubbing. While some people say they've had their chocolate-colored skin licked, I've had mine rubbed about 3 times, mostly by old people. The first time I had my skin rubbed, it was an older woman in an elevator. The second time was an elderly lady who had offered me a seat next to her in the train, only for her to grab my hand, rub it, and say something in Korean. The third time was by 2 kids sitting next to me on the train. I never saw any of this coming. It all happened so fast that I was left speechless in all 3 times. While I don't fully understand their intentions, I simply took the rubbing my skin as them being curious about why it looks the way it does and how it feels. Then there are YouTubers like Sunday Love who share the details on what they loved and hated about living in South Korea while Black. This is Sunday Love's 10 Things I Loved and Hated About Living in Korea as a Black Girl. These women talk candidly about positive and negative things about their time in South Korea, and that's really important to see because their Blackness shapes these experiences. Note, I chose Black women for the sole examples in this video on purpose, as misogynoir, a form of anti-Black misogyny, a term coined and shaped by Moya Bailey and Trudy of Gradient Layer respectively, means that Black women have experiences with anti-Blackness that can be completely opposite what Black men experience because of how Black women are portrayed, perceived, and treated. There are tons of other Black bloggers, writers, teachers, and the like who have taken to the internet to talk about their positive and negative experiences living in South Korea as Black people. They are not that hard to find. One thing is that if folks want to know about something, they will go to the internet to do research, and Koreans are not an exception to that. Like I said on Twitter, and then repeated in my essay, I am not expecting South Koreans to know every single aspect of Black history in and out of Korea. But let's be very real here. We live in an age of widespread internet and almost immediate access to information. If folks want to know something, they will find out. The cultural appropriation conversation is complicated. So are Black people's reactions to idol appropriation of Black hairstyles. Two Black people may have vastly different reactions to the same idol's instance of appropriation. Some Black people straight up don't care about the hairstyles that their favorite idols wear. They think that it's not a big deal. Others see it as the final straw for them engaging with a particular idol. They'll stop consuming that idol's content or may even drop their group entirely. Non-Black fans tend to privilege the former set of Black fans over the latter when cultural appropriation comes up or an idol decides they're going through a second or third hood phase. But that's not acceptable. Black people, Black hairstyles, and Black culture are more than convenient cultural touchstones or cool shorthand for cool and edgy aesthetics. When your favorite idol decides to rock some cornrows in order to show off how tough they are, they're showing disrespect to Black people and a point of view on Blackness that isn't acceptable. At the end of the day, our favorite idols need to do better when it comes to cultural appropriation and Black hairstyles. And so do their fans, because it's tiring as hell to see the same conversations stopped in their tracks every couple of months when an idol goes through another hoodlight hair phase for a concept or comeback.